Let's go to the Ashley and Martin turning point then, because there was a moment in that second half where suddenly the Blues caught fire. Chipper, there was a penalty in the opposition 22. They decided to tap it. So firstly, I suppose my question to you is, why are so many teams opting to go with the tap and go, and why is it reaping rewards?
I think it's because maybe set pieces are becoming a little bit more 50-50 and teams are getting a little bit more tactical at competing around this non-straight line-out, so it just simplifies things. I think it suits teams like Moana Pacifica and the Blues who do like that direct collision contact, but I like the evolution of it. You know, everyone sort of rushed around thinking it was just going to go same way and expecting that of the Blues, and obviously Hoskins taking an initial carry, looking a little bit nonchalant on the opposite side and then injecting in for that try. It was a calculated move. They'd obviously seen something in and around the 22 from the Canes to make that call, but it was executed to precision, and Hoskins ran a great line that sort of left those defenders, because they, you know, you expect them to tighten, and maybe they could have had the option out the back, but they didn't tighten because they were worried about obviously the threat of mark, and you know, a great angle from Hoskins got the result, and I think that sort of kicked them into life, and then that led to, you know, they only had 40% possession and territory, so they didn't have a lot of ball, and they didn't have a lot of ball in their half, and I think when Bowden grabbed it by the scruff of his neck and thought, I'm going to have a crack here, and that led to that Mark Talea try, which was absolutely superb. I mentioned last week, if you looked at the Blues, they didn't feel like they're on the same page. If you watch that, in terms of the forward runners, they knew where it was going, but because they ran perfectly timed lines, it just allowed the passes to be crisp. The commitment of defenders had to tackle those forward runners. That pass from Bowden, man, it was a bullet. But those forward runners that were running in front really tightened that Hurricanes defence, and that created the space, but then Mark's speed obviously finished it. And to sort of back up what I said last week around that carry to pass ratio, they were at 0.98, so 98% of the time they were carrying in those forward pods. So again, it just shows, I know they didn't win perfectly, but when they do get that direct nature in their carries and bend defences, it does allow those opportunities to present.
I think one of the interesting things about it, and for years you've heard this term painting pictures, I think it cropped up maybe 6 or 7 years ago that people started talking about painting pictures. And what it basically means is letting the opposition see something that allows you to do something else. And I felt like both of those tries, while it seemed like individual brilliance, were set up by phases and phases and phases of doing the same thing that they then departed from to create the excellence.
Yeah, and I think early comms, early set, all those things allow you to paint the picture, and all you're trying to get defenders is to assume you're doing something. And then that picture is up to the game drivers to pull the right thread, I suppose. And it just was so crisp, like how crisp all the passing, the running lines, from a counter-attack too. Like, it's not always an easy place to get set quick and find that rhythm. But yeah, as I say, off the back of that Hoskins try as the turning point, you know, like, it just did seem they found their mojo, and then they found their defensive efforts that we'd seen, you know, when they're under immense pressure, 84% possession to the Canes and territory. You know, they managed to grind out a win through defence as well. So there's just elements of their game that you saw in that second half when, let's be honest, the momentum wasn't in their favour from the word go. Like, the Hurricanes had a lot of ball, a lot of time down in their half, but they probably just didn't capitalise as much as they'd like.